Well, we're here at the end of the season. Time to take a look at our gardens and see how we did. Just to kind of see what we did wrong, see what we, the successes that we had, and, take a look at what we learned overall. Beautiful fall afternoon in October in New Hampshire. Can't beat that. Definitely the end of the season. Usually right now we don't have anything producing. But we had a really strange springtime. We had a drought and we've had warm weather. So that kind of Indian summer, that warm, dry weather has been going on for the last month. So this kind of extended the season, and the surprising success that we had was with tomatoes. By the way, forgive the weeds. At this time of year, we usually, the garden gets away from us and we don't really do much with it. But yeah, we had, somebody gave us some tomato plants and we planted them here on the hugel mound. We didn't really expect anything. But that was like the number one success was the tomatoes, and we were pulling, bag after bag of tomatoes, and it's a different different varieties. We don't know exactly what they were. Again, they were a gift, so those did well. You can see these peppers. It's wild. These are still producing, but again, that's the weather. So it's kind of cool. One of those Italian ones. I forget the name of that. That's actually produced in the last month. It's middle of October. It's pretty wild. You really can't see it now, but this is kind of where we had these small pumpkins. We don't know exactly what went on, but they were very green at the beginning, and then they turned yellow. But we got a good handful of them anyway, so that was good. Pretty wild. It's still some flowers over there. The corn, we got nothing. And it's a couple reasons. At the end of the video I'm gonna kind of explain why we got what we got and why we got what we didn't get. There's a bunch of reasons why we didn't really get much from the corn. I think the biggest thing is how late we planted it, but what are you gonna do? These cabbages, these are still a wild card. They're very small, but we've never really had success with cabbage, but we do have some of them forming. They formed a ball and became harder. This one in particular, we had some issues with worms, but we used a bacteria to eliminate that. You can definitely see where some worms were chiseling away in here, but we're probably going to have some cabbages, and I think we're going to make sauerkraut with them. Definitely some worms have been chewing away at it, but that bacteria did help. But time will tell. We won't know until we cut open into one. One interesting thing is the amount of mushrooms that we got. We didn't plant mushrooms. We did mushroom logs a few years ago. Those mushrooms, the remnant of the production of those mushroom logs made it into the compost. Compost makes it into the garden. That compost also makes it into the wood chips, and they kind of grew. We don't know exactly what mushrooms they are, so we're kind of staying away from them. But in the future, we can definitely, when we do wood chips, we can put some mushrooms in there, some mushroom spawn. This is the end of the carrots. A lot of weeds in there now, but we had a lot of success with carrots. I think the number one thing was putting in or using a seeder. So we heavily seed the bed. Carrots grow and they get rid of all the weeds. So they compete better with the weeds, so that we have a nice clean carrot bed. Now we left a lot of them in here. Let me see, because they say the longer you can keep them in there, the sweeter they're gonna get when the frost comes around. But I don't know if you can notice it, but there's little trails within that carrot bed, and the mice are starting to find them. There's a little hole, I think. Well, that might be a carrot hole, but yeah, so we have to contend with the mice now, and I think we're gonna try to harvest them all what we have left. But we got a good amount of carrots. I've never had success, or I should say I've only had success 1 year with carrots. That was years ago on someone else's land. But it's kind of good. We have the carrot strategy dialed in. You might notice all of this trellising. That was for peas and cucumbers. Both of them complete failures. I think part of it is the weeds with the peas, but part of it is that we planted too late. Oh, it's all weeds now. Cucumbers, we really try to invest a lot of time into cucumbers. They had a lot of disease problems, and there's still cucumbers here, but the cool thing about cucumbers is even if you fail, you're still going to get some. So we made a lot of pickles with them this year. But overall, complete disaster. See, you can notice all this trellising. Over the last couple of days, it looked like some deer came through here and ripped all of this trellising off. So pretty interesting. At least they didn't do it early in the season. Here was potatoes. We didn't really do well with the potatoes. They were pretty small. The potato plants that did come up, they didn't flower. And somebody told me that some varieties don't flower. But I think it's mainly due to lack of nutrients, that type of thing. We just didn't get a lot of the potatoes, but we did get some, so that was good. This is a lot of the salad stuff that my wife planted. It's all bolting now, but we did get some good stuff. I think this is either cilantro or it's gonna be, I don't know, taste it. Parsley. So that's what's going on, or that's what went on with the vegetable garden. So we have a bunch of rows that we didn't plant, both here and in the flower garden. We need to put a lot more work into them before we do anything, and the biggest problem is going to be compaction. The same goes with these hugel mounds. We've got 1, 2, and 3. We need to put a lot more work into it. Underneath these is about 3 foot of wood, 3 by 3 foot ditch filled with wood. They settled over the years, so next time I get an excavator, I'm gonna have to sort them out. We primarily just use this one where we put the tomatoes and the pumpkins. So let's take a look at the flower garden, my wife's flower garden. So I don't know what any of these are. different varieties. We planted late, and I don't know if that was a big factor because this time of year it's usually too cold and too wet and everything dies. But this thing has taken off like crazy, and my wife likes to plant a lot of sunflowers, and as you can see, we leave them there, and these birds go nuts at the end of the year. Sometimes we can see them in the middle of winter getting the remnants of it, but they really like grabbing whatever they can on as far as sunflower seeds. So as you can see, this is a lot more successful than the vegetable garden. And I think the number one thing is we used a lot more compost. We worked the soil a little bit more, and I fertilized this, a lot more than I did the other one, but you live and learn. So that's basically it. So here's our takeaway for our gardening project in 2025. And when you look at it, there's 5 different factors that we look at. The first is sunlight. As far as sunlight is concerned, we've done all that we could. We've logged all around the vegetable garden, and the light is amazing. It's really great right now. But the problem is that this didn't happen until well into July. The good thing is that we're all set up nicely for next year. The next thing we look at is compaction, and that's a huge issue. We have the rocky New England soil, but the solution is pretty simple. It's to use a broad fork, but it takes time, and the first few times that you use it in this rocky, sandy New England soil is brutal. It's a lot of hard work, but at the end of the day, it's just something that we have to do. It gets easier, but until we first dig through it, it's going to be a problem. Weeds are always a problem. We thought that adding, 3 inches of wood chips in the aisles is going to help, but it really didn't. The weeds just kind of poked through it. So I think next year we're going to use a paper weed barrier. We've been looking at a couple different products. Another factor as far as weeds go is the amount of nutrients in the soil and the compaction. Weeds like starved soil, weeds love highly compacted soil. Another factor is seeding the rows generously, and we did that with the carrots when we used a seeder. So that's something that we're going to be looking to use a little bit more next year. So timing. We planted late. We can't get around that. One of the reasons why we do that is we're always worried about planting too early because of the frost. But we'll need to bite the bullet next year and take a chance and get it in early. This year, we also ordered our compost a little bit late, and the delivery was a little bit late, and the logging was also another factor that prevented us from getting everything in there. Those are excuses that we tell ourselves, anyways. Finally, soil. Again, rocky, sandy, New England soil. It leans towards acidic and needs a lot of work. Soil is the next big project. We're thinking a lot more compost, a lot more organic fertilizer, biochar, you name it. We're going to pull in some soil from our swampy areas that are supposed to be highly nutrient dense. We're going to test it first, of course. But this all starts with a really good soil test. The next video will probably be mainly on soil. So thanks for watching, and if you like this kind of content, like and subscribe.